Well, today was perhaps the most positive day we've had so far this legislative session, as the Senate agreed with the House on the jobs legislation that we believe is going to be pivotal in turning around our state's economy. We believe Georgia will now be the state that other states look to for how you start a recovery, and that's what we need here, that's what we need in America. And this legislation that passed today sends a very bold message, and that is if we will reduce the burden on taxpayers, reduce the burden on those people who create jobs, lo and behold, they'll do what they've always done, and that is create more jobs. There's nothing more important right now in this state than creating jobs, without question. Not the budget, not transportation, not any other issue we're looking at is as important as creating jobs. And what we have embarked upon today in conjunction with our friends in the House is a very bold step that says Georgia is open for business. You want to do business in Georgia, we want to make it as easy as possible on you, and please hire Georgians, put them to work, and this economy will start to turn around.
Can you give us the nuts and bolts of what it does?
It contains a number of tax credits. The first credit is against what you would have to pay as an employer into unemployment insurance, and it says that if you hire someone who is currently receiving unemployment benefits, we're going to give you credit for doing so. And that credit is going to go towards what you would normally have to pay in unemployment insurance. It's really a brilliant idea, and I want to thank actually the Commissioner of Labor for joining in this effort, because he's one of the people who brought this forward. And the state's paying on one hand, and if we can get that person off unemployment and earning a living and paying income taxes and sales taxes, it's a benefit to everybody. The second part is another tax credit for hiring someone who's been unemployed for at least 60 days. And if you do hire that person and keep them employed for a period of 2 years, you would be eligible for a $2,400 tax credit for that particular employee. The third part forces the state to refund all of this sales tax revenue that they have collected. The businesses in Georgia are having to pre-fund their sales tax. In other words, they have to actually pay sales tax up front before they even start collecting sales tax, before they even go into business. There's about $186 million that the state has on hand that it's just simply holding. It's the money that belongs to the businesses. We're going to send that money back. And of course, one of the main hallmark features of this is the idea that we are slowly but surely going to eliminate, over a long period of time, but slowly and surely eliminate the business income tax or the corporate income tax on businesses that are domiciled here in the state of Georgia. We think that is going to make us unique in the United States, and for a corporation that is looking to move its headquarters or even start a new large corporation or even a small corporation, that Georgia is going to be the #1 state they look towards, because we don't have a tax that's forcing them to pay each time they turn a profit. And then the final measure in House Bill 482 is a referendum question that asks if we would like to get rid of the state inventory tax. This is a tax that just does a lot of damage to our economy, because it puts us on a list of 6 other states that have an inventory tax, or 5 other states. We're one of only 6. And companies that are looking to open up a business here that has a large inventory, this is really hurting Georgia, because we're on that list and they don't want to come here. This small tax relief would take us off that list, and we believe the economic benefits will be 10 to 100-fold over what the state was receiving for that inventory tax.
Senator, the House version did not include the corporate income tax phase out. Are you confident that you'll be able to work that out with them? Do you have any signal from them on whether they'll be open to including that?
We believe they will be open to including that. In fact, we've worked with the House author and the House leadership on this bill all along. And again, what the House had originally talked about was elimination of the complete corporate income tax. This is only for those corporations that are domiciled right here in Georgia, that are doing business in Georgia, that own property in Georgia. And there's a trigger mechanism we added to it that says that the bringing down of the corporate tax rate can only occur in those years when we have at least 5% in the budget reserve. So the state has to be in great financial health for that trigger mechanism to bring down that rate for those Georgia domiciled corporations. We think it's a very responsible measure, and the House has been very favorable up to this point, and we look to continue to work with them to make sure that stays in the legislation.
Will that help you compete with places like the Cayman Islands and other offshore places where people go?
Well, we'll compete with the whole world, because we will join just a handful of other countries that don't force that tax. Now, of course, there's nothing we can do about the United States corporate income tax, which is the second highest in the industrialized world. But this, as far as when comparing the other 49 states, this will clearly make Georgia the leader. And it says, if you want to come to Georgia and set up business and have Georgia be the place where you are headquartered, we want you. And we want to make that message very clear. With wide open arms, we're saying, please come to Georgia and hire people.
Can you talk about what the House did today on home assessments?
Well, that was very disappointing what the House did. It fell almost on party lines. in denying the voters an opportunity to fix a problem that has really been in existence since the homestead exemption was created in 1937. It's never been raised, it's never kept up with inflation. If it had just been tied to inflation, it would be over $37,000. Yet the fact of the matter is, it's still $2,000 today where it was created back in the 1930s. But I guess the more egregious factor is that all this was a referendum question. And you had so many people who denied the voters the opportunity to vote to fix this problem. I just don't know how you go back and talk to the people you represent and explain to them that you deny them the opportunity to vote on fixing what is clearly a problem with the statewide homestead exemption. You know, you have some legislators who sadly in the House of Representatives voted a couple of weeks ago to allow the voters to vote on a $2.5 billion tax increase, $2.5 billion a year. But at the same time, they're not going to allow those same voters to vote on what would amount to about a $120 million tax cut. I don't know how you go home and explain that it's okay for you to vote to raise taxes, but no way are we going to let you vote to lower taxes. That's difficult. I couldn't do it in my district, and I'll let them answer for their actions, but it was very disappointing.